Ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, welcome to a very special show we have here tonight. We are bringing back ACL's own In the Zone, the show where we bring you all of the latest news and information from the Australian esports scene. Here tonight, we are focusing on the Australian and New Zealand Call of Duty scene, and I am very excited to introduce our special guest for the evening. Tonight, joining us, we have from one of the best teams in Australia, arguably top two, in fact, both of these teams are. First up, we'll give it to Plantronics Mindfreaks Naked. Naked, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Josh. How are you?
I am excellent, my friend. Very, very excited to get into this show. And of course, joining myself and Naked, although he won't be joining us on webcam, we do still have his sexy face in a still image. It is Issei of Team Curse. How are you, my friend?
Sup, bro? I'm good.
He's good. He loves it. Look, the chilled atmosphere. I love it. And this is what it's all about. This is what I like about In the Zone. It's where we come to the fans and all of the people out in the esports world and bring you all of the discussion that we don't really put in more of our in some of our official shows. So look, what's going to happen in the format of this show, ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't familiar with it, this is basically an open panel. There's been a lot of news and a lot of rumours and a lot of big changes happening in the Call of Duty scene here in the Australian and New Zealand region. Of course, we've got the men from the two best teams in the country here to discuss it with us. You wanted it, we're delivering. These boys are happy to answer pretty much anything. Now, we're going to go through all the major news, and then at the end of this, I'll be taking questions via Twitter. So if you've got a question for these guys, whether it be for Naked from Plantronics Mindfreak or Issei from Team Curse, please tweet them through to @ACLPro or @ACLNManiac. We'll answer from both. That'll be a little bit later in the show. However, let's jump right into it, guys. What I want to do, because we haven't done one of these shows for quite a while, is basically do a recap on Call of Duty Ghosts in general. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this game compared to previous titles and obviously how it plays, especially on a competitive sense. So I guess, Naked, I'll start with you being probably... qualified wouldn't be the word, but after all, you do have quite a lot of experience in the competitive Call of Duty scene. What are your thoughts on Ghosts compared to previous titles?
Compared to previous titles, especially for competitive, I really have a severe dislike for it. I dislike... basically, the support, I think, is the most thing after going from Black Ops 2 to having that great support from David Vonderhaar and Treyarch, and then going to this. It's a bit of a backward step, and I've been amazed that we've grown so much. But at the same time, I'd say it's been a really good benefit for this scene, because with a less skill gap, it makes, obviously, a lot more people better, a lot of people playing with the better players. And not only that, I feel like it helped us when we went overseas for both teams, because not being able to play as much as those pro teams and whatnot, it really gives us a chance, sort of, when you narrow down that skill gap a bit, to start pulling off a bit bigger wins and whatnot. So I think it's been good for our scene at the same time as bad for the real competition. It's been a backward step since the last game.
Okay, so obviously good for our scene. Personally, probably not too much. Is it fair to say it's probably one of your least favourable titles?
For me personally, definitely my least favourable. I only just got to level 60 in public the other day, and normally I used to go for a few prestiges, and I played a lot of Modern Warfare 2 and a lot of Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 3, whereas the last two titles I hadn't played as much. I really did enjoy Black Ops, so I could handle that, and then now they've taken out the Australian servers and that, they're really just killing it over here for us.
I think we might have dropped Naked here. Issei, we still got you?
Yeah, bro, I'm here.
Alright, Issei, well look, while we're going to try and get Naked back, I think he might have dropped out. We'll jump to you. Obviously, we saw most of Naked's thoughts there on Call of Duty Ghosts. What are your thoughts on it so far?
Yeah, it probably isn't my favourite Call of Duty. Black Ops 2 is probably my favourite, but I agree with what Albert said about the support of the esports side of it. But then again, the game actually was pretty good at the start when it was released, and up to COD Champs, and then just a little bit after Champs, it was quite a good game, just because the game was more centered on how fast-paced it was. The MTAR was used a lot more, whereas the Vector is now literally the gun of choice. It's really just slowed the game down a lot. Right. And for myself as a player, the difference from March to now August is huge. The game has changed tremendously. But honestly, the game isn't that bad. It is actually pretty fun. But at the moment, there's obviously hardly any more competitions, and Mindfreak are the only team that have something to play for now in Australia because they're going to ASWC. But I think the game's all right. Like Black Ops 2 is definitely better, but the game isn't as bad as everyone says.
Right, okay. Well, fair thoughts there. Now, obviously, it is overall a lot of hate towards the game, as we've all discussed here, and I suppose it seems to be that it's kind of justified by gameplay. However, we'll quickly touch on your team. In fact, Issei. Now, you've come through in 2014 to be one of the. You're obviously a top 2 team. You're one of the most dominant forces here. You went really well over in COD Champs, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
Yeah.
Now, it may not be one of your favourite titles. What would you think attributed to your success in this title, though?
Well, I came into Ghost actually with like a set team, and I thought this team would actually be like really good. Because at the start of the game, like you can always see like how the game's going to be played in the long run. But I think my team succeeded at this game just because we had like a very good range of like we had a good range in terms of like how good we could be with like different guns and like our playstyles. Like we're all actually like 5v5 S&D players, and obviously S&D in any COD is always going to be like the one of the biggest game types, but probably arguably the biggest game type. And we like really prided ourselves on how good our S&D was, and especially at Champs we showed that like our S&D was dead set, straight up like really good. So I think the reason why we were so successful is like because at the start of the game we just grinded the game out so much. I think we just got ahead of everyone else, and it really just came down to hard work and how much we wanted it.
Right, okay. Well, there you go. Heard it straight from Issei. Well, I guess that pretty much covers it for Ghosts as a game in general. Let's go into the competitions that we've run this year, and this is where things get a bit more impressive. We'll do a quick recap. Now, we've had a lot of tournaments this year. Obviously, the biggest one's the Call of Duty Champs, or the biggest one in not only our region. In fact, obviously, we all know it's a global competition where we had some very impressive results by both of your teams. Issei, your team coming in 5th over in the States. Again, we'll touch on that more in just a second.
Yep.
Let's go into the event that went into the Call of Duty Champs. Now, in Australia, we had the preliminary qualifier, which is a LAN held in Melbourne, where we saw Immunity actually won that. Now, it's not just a case of saying that an Immunity won it. T1 Dotters knocked Immunity into the losers bracket in that event, and that was the first time that Immunity, the squad as it was known then, and again, another thing we'll touch on later, but I believe that was the first time you were ever knocked into the losers bracket, Naked.
Yeah, that was definitely the first time we were knocked in that bracket, even though it was a different roster to the one we played at LA last year, and also our normal 4 roster. That was the first time in Australia we were knocked down.
So Curse obviously come straight out of the gate, raging. And what were your thoughts when you were finally able to knock Immunity into the losers bracket, Issei?
I wasn't expecting it, but I knew that we'd like put enough work in to make it happen at least. But I then again was a bit worried about the fact that Chilean, Dens, and Damage had all never played at LAN before, and that was like their very first LAN. So I wasn't like really confident going in, but they showed that they could play exactly the way they played online as to LAN. So I was pretty surprised. I'm not gonna lie.
Right, of course. And then, although you were able to knock them into the losers bracket, Immunity did come back in the 11th game. Now, Naked, what were your thoughts coming back from the losers bracket? Did you still expect to win in the end, and what were your thoughts of going up against Curse?
It's a bit hazy at the moment because it's quite a while ago, but I remember being knocked down for the first time. Obviously, we hadn't had that happen before. We just sort of knew that we had the loser bracket to sort of build up some momentum. We were versing Avant, who at the time we really hadn't lost to Avant before, so we knew what we had to do was get a steamroll on then, and with Curse not being warm or Trident back then, just start steamrolling some rounds, and it sort of started coming up to us, and then we got to that S&D, and we ended up getting the 6-0 in that last S&D. And it wasn't one of our favourite S&D maps, and we really switched it up. I used a shotgun for the first time in my life on that S&D, and actually the first 2 rounds I got big shotgun kills, so I just come down to changing it up on the day and doing something that no one predicts, and it ended up working, so I'm pretty happy with that. And even if we did lose, we knew it wasn't that important, but we really thought that the pro points would count overseas.
Yep.
Because originally our Immunity didn't want to send us to that event, knowing that we already had qualified online by winning the 2K just earlier.
Yep.
But we really thought that those pro points would mean something overseas, so we thought we have to win these points, otherwise we're not going to get seeded well overseas. and we're not going to get seeded well at the final event, which would have been the case as well.
Right, of course. Now, that was the preliminary. Going on to the finals now in our region, we saw it was actually T1 Dotters, now known as Curse, who won that event. Immunity, Naked, your team came second. However, I think there's a lot of things we can talk about here. We'll try to summarize because we want to get onto this more juicier stuff we can talk about. T1 Dotters, Issei, your team came back from the losers bracket when you were knocked there by Avant, I think it was.
Yeah.
What happened there?
That was chaotic. We actually won the first map and then we lost 3 maps in a row. Like, when we won the first map, we, straight shredded them. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's going to be, an easy 3-0. And I don't know what happened, but we just... I know, we just got literally demolished. And I remember Benno going off in that series, especially on the Blitz Freight. He carried them on that map. But I think after that game... I was devastated because my mum had come down to watch. I had some mates come down from Queensland come watch. I had real life mates to come down and watch, and just to let them down just like that and lose to Avant, bro, in the winners round 3 or 2 or something. I was really, really devastated. And so after that I was just boys, we got to seriously step it up. And I came here to get a ticket to LA, not to get knocked out by Avant or Immunity, bro. So I had a really big talk with them before we went back in, and I think I really hyped up the boys, and we ended up taking that out. But
yeah, well, the talk must have done something there, you say, because of course the way that went down is you were coming back from the losers bracket, and the format of that tournament meant that because you were in the losers bracket, it was a best of 5. You came back, it was 2-2.
yeah,
Then if Immunity won that 5th game, it was all over. And what actually happened, for those of you who didn't see it, I highly recommend you check out the rebroadcast. We saw in the final game, it came down to the 11th round of S&D, and I actually think it was USA, came up against Rampage. Now, Rampage, all credit to him, was in a 3v1 situation. He was able to take down 2, then he came to USA. What were your thoughts when you were able to get that final kill, and you've clutched it, and then were able to force that second best of 5?
I remember this clear as day. I remember this whole round clear as day.
So do I.
And it's engraved in my fucking mind. So what happens is, I think it was Chileans and Damage who were alive, or Chileans and Dens, and one of them was on the bomb defusing, and I think Rampage, he was rapping Blue Street, and he'd come onto their blue stairs on Sovereign, just outside of comms, and he killed Chilean. I was standing right next to Chilean at the time, and I don't think Rampage saw me, but he killed Chilean and someone else, and then David was just sitting on the stairs, and what I did, I legit wasn't thinking at the time. When I think back now, what a maniac, why would I do this? But I was on the crow's nest, and I literally did the best strafe I've ever done in my life. I strafed from the crow's nest behind, I didn't even land on those ammo crates near the stairs. I landed on the stairs, and David was right in front of me. I shot him in the back and got the defuse. But when I think back then, doing that jump was really risky, but I think it was the right thing to do. But yeah, if David got that 1v3, it was all over, bro. So yeah.
And T1 Dotters, of course, forced that second best of 5 and then eventually came away with the win there. Now, Immunity, Naked, what were your thoughts at that time? Now, obviously, there was a lot of contest between both of these teams of T1 Dotters and Immunity, as they were both known at the time. You did win the preliminary qualifier, and then you've come in, and now T1 Dotters have snatched that victory. Tell us a couple of things. One, your overall thoughts on it. We'll try and summarize. But also, two, did that affect the moral of your team, or how did you feel coming out of that?
Obviously on that day we played Envy before, we played Adamant, and then we played Avant, and it was all pretty convincing games. So we won our ticket to LA. So that was sort of the pressure cooker for us. So we're pretty happy to win the tickets to LA. The same thing happened last year. We won our winners bracket convincingly. So once we had the tickets to LA, all the pressure was really gone. And then I think we had maybe even a 6-hour gap between that game and the final game.
Yep.
And that was really bad for us. I think we lost all that momentum after going into. We really did smash Avant, really. We lost all that momentum and then went into the final game. And you've got that ticket to LA, and we played well some games. You didn't play good the other ones. I can't take it away from them. They brought it. It went to that second best of 5, and we weren't even into that one. They won it once they won that. Once they got that strafe and killed David, that was pretty much they won it. But yeah, we're pretty happy to go to LA. That was the main goal. And as I said, we really thought the points from the other two lands was the big factor. So we thought we'd still be the highest seeding Australian team, even though we didn't win the event.
Yep.
And when they didn't use the points at all, that was a big kick in the nuts to our teams because we thought,
Yeah, that was a shock. I didn't see that.
yeah, because we actually had quite a lot of points for back then. We would have outranked a lot of the Europeans and a lot of the American teams. So we thought we were going to get a good seed. We wouldn't get any American teams in our pool and whatnot. We actually thought we'd have a good chance, but in the end, it didn't really matter, and we did well in that pool anyway. So we're pretty happy with that. Props to Curse for beating us, really. Tried them back then, but it was sort of good to have someone push you, and we didn't have that push for a very long time. Besides CP with Melbourne for a little bit, we sort of just stopped not trying, but we didn't have, as I said, don't want to push you. And as you say, we know as well, if you don't get to go over to America and you don't get the best, better teams, you don't get better.
Yep.
And that, in the end, has probably made us a lot better teams today.
Well, that's a very fair comment and very wise of you to say that. Now, just touching on American teams, from the result of this tournament, you did touch on very briefly, both teams were able to go over to play in the Call of Duty Champs. Now, you guys ended up being tied 13th naked. However, I think it's fair to say the big news that came out of that tournament was Dodders, as I know at the time, now Curse, coming in their 5th position. Tell me, Issei, we'll try and keep this brief, but surely there must have been so many emotions going through your head at that time.
What, just like that? Do you want me to cover the whole competition?
Well, no, you don't have to go into detail. Basically, I want to know your thoughts on coming 5th. Like, did you expect to place that high? Now, obviously, we can go through all the normal responses. Oh, well, of course you aim for first. Let's skip that crap. Let's just jump into what you thought. Did you really think you were going to get that high? And then what were your thoughts when you eventually got there?
The whole thing of it was just to make it to LA in the first place. And then when we made it over there, I'm just like I want our team to come top 8 at least. Like that's what I want. Like our goal was top 8. So we went in and we didn't really know what to expect. Like we've all seen, like all the players have seen, like how they play. Like we watch their videos, we watch their streams. Like we know they're amazingly good. And so we weren't as such scared, but we were also not confident. We were just mellow about it. So the fact that we had come 5th was really a big shock. Like when we had come top 8, I've forgotten which game it was. I think it might have been against
Rise game.
Yeah, the Rise Nation. I think we beat them 3-2, and after that game, we got top 8, and I'm just like, well, what's stopping us from like coming top 6? You know what I mean? And so, like, it was just really after that Rise Nation game, it was just really we were like playing on our dreams. So it was a big shock coming 5th. So yeah, I didn't expect that at all, really.
Well, we were all stoked for you, and on the other side of the coin here, Naked, you still did amazingly well. I mean, you got all the way to the States, then coming in tied 13th as well. Tell me, what were your thoughts going into that? Did you expect your team to place higher, and essentially, what were your learnings from the competition over there? Oh, and our call failed. All right, guys, we'll quickly try and get Naked back. He did warn us a little bit before it. So as he's coming back and my screens are messed up a little bit here, you'll have to bear with us. We'll quickly jump to our next point of conversation, which is actually going to talk about our competition so far, the lands. Now, Issei, we'll just stick with you, my friend. You're the only one with me. We'll do this together. Brisbane, Immunity won fairly convincingly over Curse. I think it's pretty fair to say. However, your team also had that crazy comeback against Avant-Garde. Now, let's make this a positive sandwich. We'll go with the bad. We had good with you talking about your team in the States. Now we'll go to the bad. You got stomped by Immunity at Brisbane. What happened there?
Well, before this competition, we actually didn't expect to go. We didn't even expect to be going to this event because at the time, I was in Japan. I was in Japan for 2 weeks prior to this event. Mm-hmm. And so I was away, and Damage Hayden, his brother was getting married. So he was obviously off doing things with his family, as you do. And so I'm not going to blame it on the fact that we couldn't get practice, but that obviously is like a slight factor in obviously like turning up to an event and being extremely solid for it.
Yeah, well, it's a sure
And
factor.
we hadn't had practice for about 2 to 3 weeks, and I think that really impacted our performance. And not only that, we had that incredible game against Avant, and we had actually lost to Avant the day before on the Saturday. I think we lost 3-1 or something to Avant. And on the Sunday, Championship Sunday, we had to verse them in the loser bracket final, and we literally won five maps in a row, and it was 5-1, and we literally won 5 maps in a row to make it 6-5. And of course, when you game for about 2 hours, bar like versing Avant, you're going to be a bit worn out. So
Yep.
obviously we weren't. Well, like when we won, we were so relieved, and we were happy that we'd come second. And then we versed Immunity. I think we were just like really worn out. We were just like tired, and obviously they straight up raped us. But still, there were a lot of factors going into that. So yeah, I don't know. Like we didn't really expect to be going just because of prior practice. I didn't want to get a bad placement, so that's why we were thinking of not going. But we decided to go. We came second. We were pretty happy about that. But the fact that Immunity won that was the opportunity to go to Anaheim. So yeah, they deserved it.
Yeah, well, of course, touching on that, because Immunity weren't able to go over to MLG, this, of course, led your team of Curse going over there. Now, once again, we're still focusing on, I can't really you can't say it's a negative. It's never a negative being able to go travel internationally for an esport that you love.
Yeah.
Now, it is fair to say you may not have gone as well as you expected over there. I won't let the viewers know about the results. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened in the competition over in MLG?
Yeah. Well, okay. We were under the impression for about like 3 weeks after Brisbane that Immunity were going to Anaheim. Like they had cemented their spot, and they had gotten their invite to go over. So we were happy for them, and we really just like went on with our lives like nothing happened. Yeah, sweet. Immunity going to go overseas. That's mad. They get another opportunity. And then on the Wednesday of the event, okay, the event was on Friday, and I got a call on Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember. I got a call from Vanza, and I was getting up for uni. I got a call, and he goes, "Hey, bruh, like, Immunity aren't going. Can you guys go?" And so I'm
I can
like,
just picture Vander just calling, "Hey, bro."
yeah, I'm just like, are you serious? Like, I thought they were going 100%. Like, they were tweeting out, yeah, bro, fuel the jet, we're going, so excited for all this stuff. Like, Fighter was going, the whole team was going, the squad. And so, like, when I got this call from Vans, I was like, you serious? And he's like, yeah, Immunity can't go. And I don't want to really point a finger at the org, but I've heard some things. And so, like, they obviously couldn't send them over. And like if I'm faced with an opportunity like this, obviously I'm going to be really excited for it. Like I'm like, yeah, fucking oath, let's go, let's take it.
Yep.
But I don't think we really thought about it properly because on like we really had like 2 days to prep for this tournament.
Yep.
And we had not been playing quite ever since we'd lost Brisbane Land. And so I think a really big factor that not many people know, and I think they're way too critical about our placement and the fact that we didn't win a map when we went to Anaheim. I think it's really critical that a critical point that they missed is that we honestly were given this opportunity with 2 days notice before the event. And so it really came down to just being underprepared, and like I had to ring up my manager. I'm like, yeah, like Immunity aren't going, so do you want us to come over and stuff like that? And he's like, yeah, that's sweet. So anyway, I'll talk about the event. Like we went over there and we had FaZe Black, and FaZe Black was our first match because we had earned the 5th seed. Well, Immunity had earned it, but we ended up taking their place. So we versed FaZe Black, and FaZe Black at the time was Dido, Saints, Sensar, and Formal. And yeah, bruh, that's like a solid team. Like I know that their placement doesn't really represent their individual skill at Anaheim, but that's a really, really solid team. And so we were a bit iffy about it. Like I didn't really want to verse like such a such a good squad in terms of skill, like straight away. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like champs. There was no pool play. It was straight double elimination bracket in this championship thing at Anaheim. So I think that also really was a big factor that we couldn't really play a day before. We ended up getting into the grind and we ended up playing just a day before. So there are really a lot of factors that went into it. I mean, I think we came like tied 9th to 12th or something like that. So, I mean, we could have done a lot better if it was under different circumstances. But yeah, I just wanted to like let everyone know once and for all that like I think a lot of people were very critical about our placement over there, and yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Oh, well, that's good. That's what the show's for, to let not only people ask you questions, but also to inform the community about what's been happening on your front. Now, Naked, have we got you back? No, he's not back yet. I thought his webcam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. We can hear you.
Yeah.
The video's loading,
Yeah,
but yeah.
video's loading.
I think I'm still getting hit at the moment, so.
We'll try and roll with it for now. We're just glad to have you back. Now, obviously, as you would have heard a little bit, we were just talking over Brisbane and Curse's place over in MLG, and obviously they copped a bit of flack for that, but we heard the explanation from Curse. So, look, I want to touch on it very, very briefly, Naked, only because obviously we've got a lot to talk about, but you did miss out on talking about Brisbane. Now, coming from all these other competitions and what we talked about where it was so close, you guys, as I said, there's no gentle way of putting it, basically smash Curse at Brisbane. What were your thoughts at that competition? Just give us your brief thoughts, and also if you can touch on a little bit about why you couldn't go to MLG afterwards, keeping in mind that we'll touch on team stuff in a little bit.
Yeah, well, obviously coming back from champs and Curse doing a lot better than us, everyone saying that we weren't the best team. Obviously, we didn't play with our best team. We didn't have Lincoln. No offense to David. David's a great player and he knows that. We did end up taking down Envy, who won GFINI the other week, even though it was a different team. They came second at that event, so I think we got. We didn't get as played out as good as we did the next day, but no one really gave us the credit we did for taking down that team, even though it was full play. Anyway, on to the next thing. People underestimate how good we are with Fighter, not by, how can I say this, without even just talking about his raw skill. Him and Shocks together, they feed off each other, and it's not a game of who can win, it's who can do better than each other, so I could say I'm better than you for the next 3 months to the next league, and it's not even the game between anyone else between them two. They want to be the better person in the team, and me and Mitch find it kind of funny because we don't really fuss about it, but they're pretty funny like that, and they're not egotistical to other people, just to each other, because it's they got a little rivalry going on, but it's really good. It promotes them wanting to do better in the team, and sort of when we had that long stint of no one really contesting us, that was the competition in the team who could do better. So going into Brisbane, we really wanted to prove that we were the better team. That was everything for us. At one point, we weren't even going to be going to the event. I can't really talk about much about that, but we ended up getting ourselves over there. Also, a lot of thanks to ACL for helping us out for that. That wouldn't have been possible without them. So I'd like to thank Vans, Nick, anyone that else had help with getting us over there, especially Damo and that. I really appreciate all the help for that. Then getting over there, taking that out pretty comfortably. We thought we would. It ended up being a lot better. Lincoln really put out the big numbers in that friggin' event. Oh, he played so good. I honestly felt like I played one of my worst events ever. But Lincoln really, really stepped it up, and I'm pretty proud to have those three teammates. With MLG, we honestly thought we were going. We were told we were going a week before the event, told you're not going. So we've told everyone we're going. We've done everything, made plans to defer uni, defer work, school and whatnot, exams. And to get told you're not going really ripped our hearts out, kind of thing. Like, that was the one thing we wanted.
Yeah. All right. I don't mean to, Naked, because we're getting into the juicy stuff. I'm going to interrupt you there, only because we have to talk about Sydney, and then we'll talk about this team stuff, and I'll come straight back to you. So let's quickly cover Sydney, only because I think it's important, because Curse, obviously a no-show. Now you say, what happened there?
Dens had deferred exams, obviously, to go to Anaheim a couple of months before, so we thought we were going, but then Dens had finally received his letter of when his exam was going to be, and it was on the Monday after Championship Sunday for Sydney, and so I didn't want to put him in a position where he had to rush all the way, because he lives in Perth, so if he flies to Sydney, it's like not like a 1 hour flight back to Melbourne, you know what I mean? So he obviously had to like get all the way back to Perth, like get ready for his exam. So I didn't want to put him in a situation which made him like hinder his ability to do the exam properly. So we just decided as a team to just like not go.
Right. Okay. Well, that's fair enough. And of course, immunity naked. Now, we have to touch on this before we get into the team stuff. You guys came third, which personally for me is the lowest I've seen you guys go at a ANZ competition. Now, what happened with you guys there?
As I was kind of trying to say, is a competition between each other most of the time, and then when we end up beating Curse, that was it. And when they pulled out of the event, they kind of ripped our way out of the fun. I know for many people that have been watching for a few years or been playing for a few years would know my rival was with Buzzin. And back when we played at ACL for less than $50 or $60 each for winning, you played for pride, and for a few years you played. The money was nothing really. You played to beat the person that was talking shit to you for so long, or you played for pride. And when there was no Curse, where was the pride? Like there was no one really went to that event, and we were trash talking, or there was no one we were trying to compete with.
Yep.
And on the Sunday we pretty much the Saturday we decimated everyone, and that was it for us. It was like, oh, what was the point of coming to this event? We didn't get as much as it's an ACL, and we love ACL and everything. There wasn't that competition we wanted, and then we didn't go into it with the hearts in it on Sunday. And frankly, it wasn't at the as you said about the team stuff, which we'll talk about soon, which is part of the reason as well. And obviously we've swapped over now. It all comes here, and there's really felt like there was nothing to play for at all. There was no reward for how well we did.
Right.
And now with the swap, I think that's completely changed for us, and we want to win everything again.
Okay, well, I think this is pretty much the perfect segue right here. Before we get into all of this talk about teams and all of this rumours and gossip that we've been hearing around, I just want to remind our viewers to, a couple of things. We're going to be taking viewer questions live from Twitter, so make sure you're following ACL's Twitter account at ACL Pro. Tweet at us with questions for Naked and Issei from Plantronics, Mindfreak, and Curse respectively, and we'll do our best to get your questions up here and get these guys to answer them. You can ask anything to do with Call of Duty, whether it's about their teams, them as a player, or basically anything you'd like, really. We don't mind. So, look, this is where we're going to jump straight into it. The way I want to do this is I'm going to break this up into two sections. We're going to have a section on Plantronics Mindfreak and a section on Curse. So, Issei, you can sit back for a little bit unless you want to jump in, which you're more than welcome to do at any time.
No worries, bro.
Let's get into it. Now, Naked, let's go
Yep.
straight with the obvious question. For a long time now, you guys have been part of the Immunity umbrella. Immunity as a squad have been very, very dominant, and it seems that they were very good, a very good team for you guys. Can you touch on, or can you give a little bit of an explanation to our viewers, exactly what happened for the transition from Immunity to Plantronics Mindfreak?
Okay, well, a little bit of history 101. I was in Mindfreak for a long time. I like to be loyal to my orgs. I was in there for a while. We were in Immunity for a while, and we try to find a good home and stay in that home, and we're never out. And I can say this with honesty, while my times in Mindfreak and my times in Immunity, we were never looking for something better, or if some better offer came, we never were interested. So for us, we didn't never wanted to leave anything. So it was a bit disappointing that we had to end up leaving. With just I can't really also go and talk down to Immunity. They did a lot of good things for us as well, and I don't want to go out and rat on like they're my ex-girlfriend or something, and just throw all the stuff in the air. It's not good for the scene to go do that, and especially for people to say, oh, we put this time into a team and you just trash us, you trash our name and whatnot. So it's not really good to go do that stuff for anyone, even, let alone ourselves. So I'd say our interests were very different. Our directions for the team were completely opposite. We wanted a lot more support, as in we wanted to make ourselves bigger, we wanted to make our team bigger, we wanted to get overseas more often, we wanted to grow our profiles and start being a powerhouse team, not just in the region but around the world, and we wanted more support to do that. And unfortunately, Immunity is a very PC-based org, and there's no room for movement with them. It's very what they say goes, and it's worked for a long time. They've been around for a long time, and we can respect that. But when moving to Docs, and I've known Docs for a long time, as he said, the original reason he moved away from only doing StarCraft was because I actually approached him about getting a COD team, and there was no gain in it for me except there'd be another team going to events all the time because he'd be funding them to them. So I've had a really good relationship with Docs for a long time, and as I had a really good relationship with Riggs, My relationship with Riggs still extended to now. Like, that's how much of a friendship we had. He would come over and stay at my house for events and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I liked that the fact that he always bring me down to a person-to-person level, not a I'm your manager player. He never bring like a power kind of trip to me. And I'm not saying Immunity did that, but I just like how he makes it feel like we're just as, if not more important than himself. And I didn't really realize that how much he actually does that until I'm actually in the organization with Docs now, and how much he goes out of his way for his players, and he does it more than you actually know. And there's a lot behind the scenes that people don't see, and that's why I've said it 100 times on Twitter now that I love being a part of an organization with him, and I love how much he wants to support what we do, and he wants to make dreams come reality. And saying that with ESWC Paris, it wasn't even hard to get that for him to do that. He wanted to do that for us. He wanted to make something for us, and he given us that reason to start playing hard again, as we did when we first joined Immunity. We wanted to impress the people we work for, really,
Mhm.
and we've pretty much won everything so far since we've joined MF. And if so, there hasn't been many things. We've really tried to do what we can to impress him and impress our sponsors, and we'd like to really thank Derek for everything he's done
Mhm.
so far, and we're looking forward to a good future. Plantronics, and especially Vans and everything. As I said, Vans helped us with Brisbane, and he's always been a help for us, and we really, really appreciate ACL and everything they do. And people are very critical to judge them when something goes wrong or anything they do, but you don't understand how much they do for no gain. So it's really silly to judge someone that does something for the good of everyone, really.
Well, we appreciate that, Naked. Thank you very much. Now, that was an excellent summary, and I think that answers most of our questions. However, I wouldn't be a good interviewer if I didn't ask the ones that people have been asking the most. So I'll try to make them as cushioned as possible. Now, you did kind of briefly summarize, but I'll be more direct with it. Would you say that there's any bad blood between your squad and Immunity as an organisation?
As I said, it's kind of like a relation. It is really a relationship. I'm sure Issa would agree. When you're even with teammates and with sponsors, it's like any relationship. And
Yeah.
if it ends bad, it's going to end bad. It rarely ever ends good. So I wouldn't say it's bad blood. We don't go out of our way to start trashing Immunity, and they don't go the same way about us. They're a professional organisation, and we like to think we're a professional team.
Yep.
And it's bad for both people if we do it. So bad for their sponsors, bad for our new sponsors, and it makes us look really bad. So I'd say it didn't end great, but to say that we're out, we hate each other or anything is a different story. We've shared some great moments, especially with Lloyd and Reg going to LA with them. You don't sort of hate people you've spent a lot of time with.
Of course. All right. Well, thanks for that. Now, obviously, the transition from Immunity it went to Plantronics, Mindfreak. Now, you mentioned a couple of names there. I just want to touch on them. Docs, aka his real name's Derek. He is obviously the manager of the Envy esports team, but also is obviously closely associated with Plantronics. And you also mentioned Riggs, who I believe I'm not sure is he the owner or he's the head of Mindfreak.
I should explain this properly for everyone who doesn't actually
There you
understand it. We have joined Plantronics Envy, but under the name of Mindfreak. So, as you know, the team Infused from Europe, they actually have Prophecy, which was kind of like a subdivision. When teams are very PC based, it's hard to work sponsors, especially with console. We're pretty new to everything as opposed to PC, so it's hard to work the same sponsors around.
Yep.
And it kind of hurt us back in IM with all these people wanting to work with us, but you can't because they support PC so well, and it'd be silly for them to make that move, and it just doesn't work really. So we've joined under Mindfreak for another reason, not only for the sponsor reason. For the name Envy is a big American team.
Yep.
And we've obviously seen people kind of trashing the Gamecom, the Plantronics Envy guys for that name that Docs really didn't know. Docs was from StarCraft and would have never heard of it, and I'm sure it happens with many other titles as well.
Yep.
So we didn't want to roll in any toes, especially with Hatstro and his team and whatnot, and everyone else. So we thought we want to go with a different name, and we wanted to work with Docs. That's why, especially to work with him, I feel like everything he says he means, and he'll never do the wrong thing, and he'll go out of his way and above and beyond to make that happen. So the Mindfreak name, we didn't really have any other options for names, and obviously everyone knows that I represented Mindfreak for a long time. We thought it's a good name. We like the logo. We think it's a selling logo. It's really good stuff to be a part of. And even though Docs is our manager, our owner, and all that, Riggs has pretty much given up the other Mindfreak esports that no longer will exist.
Yep.
But he will be working with the team also, kind of like how Hex sort of does with Optic. We're looking to promote the players a bit more. So something that we feel that's been left from Australia, we don't have that from America. So we're trying to give that, and I can't reveal too much about our plans. We actually have a lot of plans going in motion. So it's like sort of like a subway tunnel, and there's so many things going on at the moment. We can't focus on one thing, especially with Paris and whatnot. So at the moment, us players are really trying to focus on getting that World Cup trophy for Call of Duty Ghosts, and we want to do the best I can, especially finally taking Lincoln over. And that's going to be a really good prep for COD Champs next year, which we hope to attend.
Awesome. Well, we'll touch on that on ESFC a little bit more. Sorry, Say, I realise we're getting there, buddy. We're getting there.
Nah, good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I'm enjoying it as well, and I hope everyone else is. This is great catching up on all the info here. Now, Naked, just quickly, now you've just gone through basically how your squad is structured from a team and sponsorship point of view. Now, you did say obviously you're coming under the Envy umbrella. Now, there is a already formed and well settled Envy squad. Now, there's been a few, not rumours, it's not rumours because I don't think it's actually believable, but it's just been hearsay about Mindfreak as a squad maybe being a threat to Envy from a sponsorship point of view. Can you shed any light on that? Is there any truth in those words?
No, Envy is Dox's baby. We're another part of that. As I was saying, if it wasn't for the name, really,
Yep.
we would be called Envy as well. But that's literally the only problem we had with us. Is the name is not going to be well received overseas,
Yep.
obviously for obvious reasons that everyone that watching this would understand. They've got no issues at all. If anything, seeing us getting sent to Paris is a motivation boost for them to pull their finger out and start performing a bit better, and for some of their players to actually be loyal. You're in one of the best organisations in Australia, and I'd go out and say for console, obviously Curse is really good, but I'm talking about Australian organisations. That'd be the best console sponsor at the moment. So if anything, that's a motivation for me to say, hey, let's kick this Plantronics ass team next game and let's go get sent to Paris or let's go get sent to LA. It's got nothing to do with the name. It's what Docs is obviously seeing what we can do, and he believes in us, and there's no doubt that he believes in his team. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there right now.
Right, and now, just my final topic for your team for now, until we get Twitter questions, because no doubt there'll be a lot more in there. ESWC, this is without a doubt the biggest news for your team. Obviously, you went over to the COD Champs, but surely this is the biggest news going over to Paris. Now, you did touch on it, but Naked, you've got to be really excited for this, and I mean, there's nothing more I can say. ESWC, do you want to expand upon your thoughts on that?
Pretty much I'm so excited to go to Paris. I've been to LA twice now. Obviously, going to LA as many times as you want is the goal. Twice isn't enough. So, without going to MLG this year, that was sort of the letdown. We really, really wanted to go to that, but we looked at our events for the rest of the year with Gfinity. Gfinity just didn't work out timing-wise for us. I definitely couldn't do it because of the dates. Not only that, that was sort of in between the transition of us joining MF and with Immunity, so it was never going to happen, so we had to turn that down as well. This really was the only timing-wise option for us for the rest of the year. We want to go out with something on Ghost, and as I said before, I feel like it's a smaller skill gap game, so if there's a chance for us to do really well overseas, it is this game at least, depending on how good we are at the next game, obviously.
Yep.
But it's a chance to hit them up overseas. A lot of people, especially the Europeans, say that the Americans don't play as well in Europe, so that's another thing we wanted to see if that was a factor, because if we notice a big difference going over there as opposed to going to America, it might change our opinions on maybe attending Gfinities instead of MLGs. But MLG is still the goal for any console team, really. I'm sure Iso would say it's a massive difference. And same with COD Champs. You come back here and ACL does a really good job, but it's the whole thing is different. There's no comparison, and you get back here and you get this post-land kind of depression, and it sort of hurts for your team. You want to be over there longer. And yeah, he would understand completely. And as I said that to him last time, when you come back, you're going to be so upset. And then it does hit, and you've got hardly any motivation. And then when you see, hey, you're going to Paris, your motivation comes back. And as bad as I hate this game, I've been online more than I've been since Champs. So I really want to do really well for us and for the country again, because I said Curse did really well at Champs, and I think we did well as well. And it's boosted our community. It gave 5th seeding at MLG, so if neither of his team done that, I doubt it we would have even got a seed overseas, and I'm hoping maybe next year, it's a bit of a long shot, but maybe we'll even get more teams to go to COD Champs. I doubt it. 2 is really big for our region. As much as we've got some good competitive teams, 2 is pretty big besides the whole of Europe and America getting them, and America gets it for obvious reasons.
Yeah, well, we're hoping more the merrier, right? Especially representing the ANZ region. Now, speaking of Issei, I'm glad he's piped back in. Naked, we might give you a rest for a minute. Let's jump over to talk a little bit about the Curse squad. Now, again, I'll try and be brief. You want to smash through this, but however, it needs to be asked. A lot of
I'm
people
ready,
in the established scene. We'll start baby steps. We'll start with the easy stuff.
Yeah,
A lot of people in the established scene, because obviously the competitive Call of Duty scene in Australia has grown exponentially over the last few years. It's been around for a while now. It's quite firmly cemented. However, Issei, your team of T1 Daughters was, I guess it can be said that it was quickly thrown together, and now obviously under the banner of Curse, you guys have just stormed through 2014. Can you very briefly just tell us what was your history prior to this year, and what's led to you coming to where you are now?
I've always played 4v4, so like I played 4v4 in Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 2 was probably the stepping stone for myself anyway. Probably for the other players in my team as well. That's when we like rose to our like highest potential, I guess, and Ghost really like spread that all over the years. So Ghost for me, I mean Black Ops 2 for me was like a really big opening. I was offered a spot in CDG. Coup de Grace. It was myself, Hysteria, Renzi, and Ray. And that was like my first team in 4v4 where I was like, I was consistently placing top two. And they really helped me as a player. So I'm really grateful, especially to Renzi and Hysteria for giving me that opportunity back then, because it actually definitely gave me the bridge to become a better player. So really, I went into Ghosts with a team of myself, Chileans, and Ziggy, and we were always looking for one member, and we were thinking of picking up Renzi, and it was going to happen for a little while, and it was weird. We'd realised that Damage and Dens had come over from PS3, and they wanted to play COD Champs as well. And so we found ourselves, myself and Chilean anyway, we found ourselves that why shouldn't we team up with them? That'd be a good idea. I personally I'd never talked to them before. I didn't even know who they were, and but Chilean did, so he talked to them, and we ended up talking, and we decided, yeah, fuck it, let's like run some scrims. And so we started running scrims, and we went through this honeymoon stage when we first formed our team. We were just like untouchable. So that's really what happened. So I was saying on Twitter today as well to everyone, because everyone is like getting all excited for COD Champs next year, as you do.
Yep.
It's a new beginning. It's a fresh start, but they don't understand that. Like even for myself on Ghost, I came into this game with a set team in mind. Myself, Naked, and Ziggy looking for one, and yeah, it sort of works for a little while, but it's usually it's never gonna end up the same. So, like, I just want to let everyone know, like, who isn't in Mindfreak or Curse, because just be careful, like, not to make decisions too early about what kind of team you want, because who knows, like, someone's always going to stand out on the next game in Advanced Warfare. Someone always stands out at the start, and that's when like we're going to make our move to pick up our fourth member for next year's COD Champs. So yeah, anyway, like that's really history about me. Like I always played 5v5 over 4v4. Actually, I always played 5v5 S&D. I've been playing 5v5 S&D since Black Ops 1, and like it's always S&D's always been my favorite game type. So I always pride myself on S&D and how smart I am in that game type. But yeah, that's really the same goes for my whole team. Actually, we're all 5v5 players. So yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. So there's a bit of a background on the Curse squad. Now, we did mention a name in there quite a few times, and also, excuse me, we did also mention team stability, which I think it's fair to say has been covered a few times. You know, it's a major issue we face here in Australian esports, and
yeah.
It's actually Plantronics Mindfreak who have kind of been trailblazers in that regard, holding their team together. And
Yeah, definitely.
you know, up until recently, we've seen the same out of Curse. Now, of course, this is the major news, and in fact, is one of the major reasons and inspirations for us to have this show. all over Twitter since the announcement. You say the roster change for Curse. We saw Chilean being dropped. There was an announcement. Now, I know the announcement. I've read it, but I'm going to leave it to you. There are some viewer questions about this, but we'll go to them at the end. So I'll be direct with this. Can you tell us what exactly happened with Chilean?
Okay, let me just gather my thoughts. So, the whole thing about Chileans is, I think everyone knows, I don't know if he still is, but we were best of friends, especially online, and even in real life we got along exceptionally well. We always had the same interests. We got along extremely well, even in the team. Before COD Champs, the drive was to make it over to LA. But I just want to say to everyone, even before COD Champs, there was a stage where ourselves as a team, we were thinking of possibly making a change right before COD Champs, because myself, Dens, and Damage obviously really wanted to make it over there, and Chilean did as well. But I think Chilean had Chilean really didn't dedicate himself that much. A couple of weeks before the Sydney qualifiers, and we were really getting quite angst about that. We were quite anxious about if he's going to hinder our ability to make it over there, because that was a dream. So there, if Chilean was put into a perspective in our team, if anyone was cutting slack, if anyone was letting down the team, it would probably be Chileans. Not in gameplay respect at all, but in dedication respect and of interest. So when I made that announcement yesterday or the day before, I can't even remember. Everything's a blur. But the whole thing of it is that Chilean had Chilean always has represented himself on Twitter as a bit of a loudmouth and a bit of a wild one, as everyone probably knows. But there was a scenario where he was quite abusive, and he was bullying a certain member of the community, and so we at the time it wasn't really a big deal to us because Curse had never really they've obviously said, be respectful to your teammates, be respectful to other players and people in the community, and so we were okay, well, it doesn't really seem to be a big issue. But then once Chilean had done this on Twitter to this certain person, someone from the community had emailed Curse management, and I woke up the next day. I don't know who sent in the email. I think I know who it was, but someone sent in the email and had screenshot the tweets that Chilean had done to this certain person.
Yep.
And we got an email the next day from Curse, and they're like, this is really disrespectful. This is extremely bad representation. And obviously, I was so shocked, and I was quite scared because I was worried, what happens if they drop us?
Yep.
And so I talked to my manager the next day after reading the email, and I talked to Liquid as well, the owner of Curse, and I told him that I sincerely apologise for his behaviour on Twitter. And my COD manager Caleb, Curse Cable, we had a chat. And he said that we were actually going to get dropped as a team from Curse by Liquid that week that Chilean had this big debacle on Twitter.
Right.
And so when I heard that, I was like, you're got to be kidding me. I've worked this hard to make it this far and earn what I've earned so far. I'm not going to lose it over something so small like this. And so they were going to drop us, and Caleb had said to me, you guys had been thinking of dropping Chilean in the past, and I said, yes, that is true. And he said, well, we're going to drop him, and so we're going to drop him whether you like it or not. And so we said, all right, well, we're not going to pick up a player for COD Champs at the moment. And I told him that there'd been a certain player that we'd always been playing with this whole year who had gotten along really well with us, and he's probably arguably tier 1 in players alongside Subby Power with Shocks and Fighter, and I'm obviously talking about Luke.
Yep.
And the kid's only 13. he's got a really big future ahead of him in terms of his actual life and in
Now,
COD.
I don't want to interrupt you, say I have to, because we're going to break this up. We'll touch on the pickup of Luca in just a sec. There's two things I want to do here. First of all, let's go back to the fact that it was the Curse management who basically... Well, they were the ones who put Chilean on the chopping block. Now, there were rumours spread around that this was, to be very blunt, it was an excuse. Now, you can obviously confirm, Guy, there was
I
actually a decision
understand.
made by Curse's management.
Yeah, well, I understand people obviously would think that we would use that as an excuse, but all I can say is what I can say. I'd show you messages between myself and the manager, but obviously I can't because that's like not
Oh,
what
of
you do.
course.
But
You don't need to anyway.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't understand why I have to prove to everyone in the community that we use that as an excuse to drop him.
Yep.
But obviously, I'm not going to say that we weren't influenced though by his previous dedication and his attitude. I'm not going to say that didn't influence the choice.
Yep.
But the management of Curse did make that a decision by themselves, and that's all I can say. So, for everyone who's saying that otherwise, you have no fucking clue. So don't spread rumors about things that you have no idea about.
Well, there you go. You've heard it. That's the truth, ladies and
can I
gentlemen.
chime
Here,
in
right
there?
here. And I was about to... It's funny you say that, Naked. I was about to jump to you because the question to you,
Naked's
Naked...
probably had previous problems with this thing as well. Him being the captain and like choices he's made in the past, but they could have been management decisions. I don't know, but you
Well-
probably know what I'm coming from.
Well, Naked,
I
just quickly...
completely agree with Curse.
Yeah, well, here we go. I'll put it to you as a direct question, and then feel free to go with this as you please. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on Curse's management, and obviously your thoughts on Curse as a squad, their response to that, and then expand upon what you will about that.
Well, even with disregarding everything between me and Chileans, obviously that everyone's seen, it's no hidden agenda or anything. Without it being Chileans, I think it's great to see that happen because we've got so many characters on Twitter, and there's some funny people. Okay, I can understand people giving jokes and whatnot, and giving a little bit of here and there, and if you can give it, you can take it. But there's a line that he crosses every sort of certain time, and I literally pointed it out once, and I'm thinking that's the situation that you say was talking about, where it was just unneeded for no reason. And I'm happy to see that. Hopefully that pulls a lot of people's head in that, hey, you're never going to be in a top team or a top org if you're going to constantly be a dick to people for no reason. And
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle Sider said the same thing on Twitter yesterday, and it's happened in America before, so I'm happy to see it come here. And I actually, especially Curse, obviously a top American team, and I know Issei had spoken to me several times before about trying not to start him, but sort of sometimes we start each other, and I understand it's so hard to control sometimes, especially when you see someone say something that really rides you, and then you get the rest of the people jumping on board and jumping on your back about that thing, and even though you're innocent, you have to reply, or it looks bad on you, and you look bad replying still. But I feel like sometimes you need to reply, and you need to go that extra mile. And since we've joined sort of MF, I'm especially out of respect for Docs, I'm trying to avoid that. And I don't think we have any beef with Curse, really. We might have a bit of shit talk here and there that me and Issei sort of say, but I'm pretty sure we've never hated each other. We've given each other shit, and that's fair enough. I could say with Chileans, it probably wasn't shit. It wasn't shit talk. It was general. It was pretty bad banter, and we didn't really like each other. But I'm not going to go out and say I hate someone that over Xbox Live. I have a severe dislike for some people, maybe. But I think the way me and Issei go about it, we really want to make something out of this, and it's all for the common goal. And I'm really happy that Curse sort of put that out there, and I hope that's a message to a lot of other people who think they can be the biggest pranksters on Twitter and still be professional, because it's not even funny. Especially, some other things I've seen about abusive things about people's parents and whatnot, and mothers and that. It's disgusting, and I really wish they didn't. Like, you could delete people's Twitters sometimes.
Now, it's look, you've covered it brilliantly here, guys. Both of you have done really, really well here. But just on the topic while we're on here, we can only put it out there so much about people's behaviour on social media, and they don't realise the impact that it has. Given that you've both have pretty big sponsors right now, I'll start with you, Naked. I'm hoping that you boys can weigh in on people's influence on social media, not only now, but also the things they say now will have an influence on future sponsorship. Is that not right?
Yeah, well, really, if you start turning away a sponsor now, they're not going to come back. They're not going to think about it again. And
You're always going to
that's another thing that Issei actually asked if that was me who dubbed in Chileans that time, and I 100% it wasn't me, because as I said to him, it'd be bad for me if how I see it, and it's going to sound cocky, but this is how I see it. When they got cursed, that's a big up for us. They bring a lot of exposure to the scene. And I feel like if we beat Curse consistently and everyone that follows Curse kind of sees that, that's more exposure for my team to look better. So for me to go do that is a really negative, and I dislike that someone had to go that far to actually do it, but I feel like with Chileans it was needed.
Yep.
I don't feel like any other stuff's really needed to go that, and I really would avoid going straight to the sponsor or trying to get a team into trouble so that we lose that sponsor, because for argument's sake, Curse isn't Curse, and they were some random team and they were sponsored by a good org, and that's the only way of getting a LAN. We just lose another LAN team, and especially with how hard it is for us to get big numbers because we're such a widespread country and whatnot, and it's pretty expensive as opposed to other countries. You're doing more negative to the scene than you're doing good. It's better to work it out privately and stop calling people out on Twitter and whatnot. It just makes us all look dumb.
Well, there you go, straight to the point, and I like it, Nate. It makes some sense to me. What's your weigh in on this, you say?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Naked. The fact that such a big North American organisation has come over to Oceania in League of Legends and Call of Duty is such a big step for Australia's exposure in the esports community. And for someone like Chilean to consistently represent their brand and their sponsors in such a bad way and in an abusive way is obviously way out of line. So, in my opinion, I think obviously Curse made the right decision in doing so, because we don't want people in the future to be like what you say now is always like gonna impact like the future. Like you're always gonna have a past, so people will always think about like how people have been on social media. Like it's collateral damage for like the community in general. So I think it was a good decision to let go of someone who was too loose mouthed on Twitter, because really social media is such a big thing these days, especially with representation of organisations and sponsors, and building up your profile and whatnot. So yeah.
Well, there you go, folks watching at home. There's the story, and also I would highly recommend we all take some advice from the heavyweights here of the Australian New Zealand Call of Duty scene about basically conduct on social media can come back to, quite frankly, bite you on the arse. Now, let's just touch on now. Chileans was dropped. We've covered that.
Yep.
Let's get on to the man of the hour. Some may say, and I don't even mean, I'm not in a condescending way, boy of the hour.
Yeah.
13-year-old Luca. Now, personally, if I may go on a little rant here, this kid has been going absolutely insane. He has been the most impressive player I've seen in my entire, in recent memory, commentating career in Halo or COD. He's gone absolutely off, and I was so impressed with him, and especially even in our Call of Duty Ghost League. I was watching him very recently, in fact, where he got a full team down. It was insane. Now, obviously, the kid is skilled. Can you go through your process of picking up Luca, including essentially the history of where it come from, and obviously there's basically touch on his age and how it might affect future competition?
Yeah, sure. So Luke has previously obviously played with Damage and Dens. They were in Team Aura on PS3, so they've always been they've always been friends and they've always teamed with each other. I'm pretty sure Naked's versed their team a couple of times on PS3, and he knows that they've teamed together. So when we actually formed Trident T1 Daughters at the start of the year with Chili and myself, Damage and Dens, we always found ourselves always having to find a fill-in for Chilean, and Luke was it was either Luke or Verenzon, and Luke or Verenzon were always filling in for us, and so we could scrim before COD Champs, and I actually grew really fond of Luke, and I really like him as a person, and he's really a fresh burst of energy that I enjoy. So I always love playing with him. I'm sure Dens and Damage love playing with him as well. But the real reason why we picked him up is straight up because he's probably in my opinion, he's like probably the best subby at the moment. Like he's so dominant, and he's only 13. And when you look at the big picture, and this is what I've said in my Reddit post about the whole roster change and why we picked him up, is because when you look at it, there's like 6 to 7 months before the next COD champs, right?
Yep.
And obviously Naked's team is solidified because Fighter's of age now, so he can definitely go to COD champs if there is even a COD champs. His team's solidified, and like our team, we have solid three: myself, Damage, and Dens. And when you think about it, like we have 6 to 7 months to choose one player, just one player. And as I said before on Twitter today, like everyone's getting very excited for something that could have, like realistically, like just slip through your fingers, and your team can always like just change over the course of a week.
Yep.
So I find that the position we were put in is that I don't want to pick up someone who is good at this game, but when the time comes, when Advanced Warfare comes, there's always someone that is standing out. And so, like everyone's going to just play public for a bit, then it's going to graduate to customs, and then once you start playing customs, you start seeing like who's very dominant, like who's like showing everyone up, like who's standing out. So that's what my team is waiting for. Is that step for when we think it's right to pick someone up. And whoever we pick up, we're obviously going to be looking for an aggressive subby. So I know there's a couple of 18-year-olds who play the subby really well. It is a great shame that Luke isn't of age, but it doesn't really phase us at all, because I mean when you put it to the test, like when it's going to come down to it, it's going to be like Mind Freak and Curse, and then possibly another team who's very dominant in the next game. So it's just the way it works. Every COD's always had like 2 or 3 teams that are really dominant, and at the moment I don't see that changing at all. And so like when we when we want to pick someone up, it's not going to be like if their dream is to go to LA with us or wherever the next COD champs is, who knows? But if their dream is to make it over there and make it big, like they're not going to turn down an offer from a team that realistically is guaranteed to go with another team. So I think that like the whole thing of it is that we picked up Luke because in the big picture, Luke is always going to be improving. He's only 13. He's got years ahead of him, and myself, Damage, and Dens obviously don't have like as many years ahead of us as we do with Luke. And but when you come down to it, I mean, COD Champs is a big competition. It's like an annual thing.
Yep.
But realistically speaking, we can always find someone to replace the Chilean role, because if you were to remove any of us, like Damage, Dens, or myself, I think it would really, really influence our performance as a team. But because Chileans played quite a simple role, he was an aggressive subby, plain and simple. He was always the one like getting that first kill or being extremely aggressive. So those kind of players are really not hard to find. So we're not worried about it at all. So
we need an aggressive subby. Get in here, you sheep.
So like the whole scope of it is to have Luke in the team and have us 4 as Curse solidified. That is the 4. And then when COD Champs comes, we're going to do what Immunity has done in the past. They use Rampage at COD Champs to fill in the spot for Fighter. So we're obviously going to find someone to fill in the spot for Luke. It's plain and simple. Like I don't understand why people are saying blah blah blah. You've made such a bad decision. What are you guys thinking picking up a 13-year-old?
Well,
I understand for people who are overseas, they probably haven't seen this kid play, but mark my words, like he's gonna like be the best. He is probably already the best. So like I really don't understand why people are trying to say we made a bad decision, because I mean COD Champs is one competition, but there's so much time ahead of us. There's really no rush.
Well, there you go.
I'd like to chime in something as well.
I was
Sorry.
I was about to say, over social media, there's been a lot of words thrown all over the place
definitely
about Luca, and in fact, I did see some words from you, at least touching on the subject, Naked. So, what are your thoughts on this pickup of 13-year-old Luca? Is the age going to be a major factor? And you can expand on whatever you're going to go on there.
My reasoning for not getting Luke isn't the reasoning that everyone else is saying, because it's 13. It's not that, in fact, him. I think, well, what we did with Rampage or David, we actually used our time that we had to sort of test David. So we used him for Sydney Land last year for Black Ops 2, and that was sort of the test. Could he handle the pressure? Could he handle us when we're getting under the pump and that? And could he still com? And he did really well. We won that event. He played really well. and that was sort of our pressure tester for David. So that was sort of in our mind. He did well enough with us at a live event and online, even though we didn't really play much at the end of Black Ops 2 for that event. He did well, and that was sort of, he can handle the pressure, play with us. Obviously, LA, and that's a big step, but the most important thing was getting to LA, and if you didn't get there, that's embarrassing for me if you don't get there personally, especially for our team, how high we hold ourselves. If we didn't get to LA, that would have been pretty bad for our team. And obviously trying to be the best team, you're not getting over it's pretty bad. So I just thought maybe, and they can still do this, there's no problem with them not doing this with Luke, is start testing all these 18-year-olds, and obviously they're going to be better on the next game, or they could be worse, but I thought what they would do is keep trying all these 18-year-olds and seeing who they would get, and that's what they still can do, obviously. But that was my sort of 2 cents, and the fact is exactly with what Issei said, there's going to be a bunch of teams forming next year, and what Issei really has the power to do, and I know my teams have had the power to do this in the past, they've got the rep and they've got the org to sort of pull any player they want. That's besides basically my team, I feel. So they could let everyone else do the hard work and then pull that player out from that other team and take him whenever they want. And I feel like they really can do that. And I feel like we could do that if we ever needed to, but I don't think we will for the moment. So I feel like, that he could really sit there with Luke until the start of the next game, geek it out, say, hey, this team's our competition, snatch their best player, and that team sort of goes to crap and they sneak the top 2 spot with us, is what I really see happening.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think of it. Naked's hit it on the head.
Okay, well, there you go. That pretty much wraps it up. We did have a final segment on Advanced Warfare, but look, guys, there's a few things we could talk about it, but look, we're going to skip that. We could save this for another time because obviously few people have loved the show so far, so no doubt we'll be able to talk about this again prior to the launch of AW, so we'll come back for that. What we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard all of the information and updates from both of these teams. We're going to go to the Twitter questions from you guys watching at home. So as you're watching this, if you have any questions about anything to do with these teams or the ANZ Call of Duty scene in general, tweet them at us at ACL Pro and we'll get them. I've got a few that we got earlier, so that's what we're going to start off with. Make sure you keep those questions coming and I'll ask them as we go. So I'm going to try and target both of you guys, but if not, I'll go one for one. And here's some rules to keep this fast. We're going to keep answers to a minute or less. So let's start it off with you, Naked. Best advice for newcomers who want to break into esports professionally?
Try to revert from burning any bridges. Don't talk crap to people. Every bridge you burn is a potential sponsor or a team in the future, and that hurts your chances of moving up the ranks. Be a student of the game, learn everything you can. I'm sure Issei will say at the start of this game they did that better than anyone else. They knew pretty much everything before everyone else, and it pays off. If you get ahead of everyone else at the start, you become the powerhouse. And also to start networking, make a lot of friends, and just really put the time in. You only get out what you put in. If you don't put enough time, you're going to fall behind.
Right. Okay, and for you, Issei, what's your biggest motivation to pursue esports professionally?
This is a good question. Like, even when I'm done playing and I've done competing and all that kind of stuff, I still want to be part of the esports community. I've said it 100 times before. What that will be, who knows? But when the time comes, I always want to be part of this community because I love it to death. We may have like our differences, Naked and I, but it's just a rivalry, really. I mean, it's a game, brah. So just kick back and play. Yeah.
All right, I'm changing up the rules because we've got a lot of questions coming in. So as I ask you these, we'll keep them to 30 seconds or less. You both have been fine so far, but I just want to say that so we can get through them. Now, look, this is obviously a vital question, so it has to be asked. Issei, how does it feel being graced with the best hair in Oz?
Is that the question from Renzi?
That is the question from Renzi.
Well, I don't know. It's just. I've had many hairstyles in the past. I think everyone's seen them, but no, it's a good feeling having this kind of hair. I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. I must be honest. Being half Japanese obviously helps my hair a lot. I've got nice thick black hair. Well, it's actually not black. It's dark brown for those of you who don't know. So there you go.
Well, there you go. I was going to ask about black or a darker shade of black, but I'll skip the Archer references. I'm going to jump into a question for both of you guys. Speed round. Who do you believe will shine in Advanced Warfare and who won't? Naked, go.
Fighter Shocks, buzzing naked.
Too good. What about you, say?
Yeah, he actually copied my answer. I was just going to say, I was just going to say, yeah, it's going to be my team. No, but
Oh, I
honestly,
thought you were going to say us.
no, but honestly, like, there are a couple of players who I really think, if they put the effort in, they need to put the effort in, man. They can like be tier 1. I think that's Yelza. I think Yelza has really come into the gates in this game. I've teamed with him before, even on Modern Warfare 3. He's a freak. So if he puts the effort in and doesn't fuck around, then yes, he can be tier 1. So that's one player who I put my finger up to. But there are also a lot of old people coming back, which I'm really excited about, like Renzi, Hysteria. Like, I love those guys to death.
Falcon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, everyone's coming back. Like, Daniel's coming back, like, sick as. So it's going to be great, like, scrimming teams and competing against players that I personally love in the community. So, yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Awesome. All right. Now, we've actually got, I'm quite surprised by this. We've got a couple of questions about the New Zealand scene. So let's jump into that. For both of you, I'll start with you, say this time. What do you guys think about the New Zealand community compared to Australia? And will you guys watch the NZ LAN?
First of all, I didn't know there was an NZ LAN coming up. So,
well, I guess that kind of half answers the question, doesn't it?
No, honestly, when I think of NZ players or NZ teams, I just think of Mega. Like, they've always been like the best team, I think, from New Zealand. I'm pretty sure they are. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Eminence, Baka, Beck, Killer Ply, and Hydra, I think it is. I think that's the team of Mega. So, man. Like, they're a good team. Like, they're always willing to grind, which is what you need if you want to be successful. Naked will agree with me. You need to put the effort in, otherwise you're going to get no juice. So, like, you got to like put the effort in, otherwise you're going to get nowhere. So that's one of the teams that I think will do well next game because they're willing to put the hours in.
Right. Okay. And what about you, Naked? What are your thoughts on the NZ scene compared to Australia? And are you going to watch the LAN coming up?
Exactly what he said. I never even knew there was a LAN coming up. Number 2, I've been to ABT, so actually it was a pretty good LAN. I like the community. They were very nice. They remind me of us sort of back in 2011-12 area. Mm-hmm. Still pretty new to it. I think they suffer from the same thing we suffer from when going to America, is they don't have enough good teams to play against. And even though they can still play us, I feel like, and as much as we enjoy NZ host or whatever, it's still a disadvantage for both people playing of having that net difference.
Yep.
And they don't get enough chances to actually play the top teams here, let alone the same thing we have over there.
Yep.
So, and also just on ANZ COD Champs, didn't the NZ team of pickups come 4th, like just behind Advance? So that's probably the biggest thing the NZ teams have done.
Yeah.
They came out of nowhere and came 4th, and they just came for the free booze, basically.
Well, there you go. That basically answers the question anyway. Hopefully we'll see, I guess it's fair to say we might see a little bit more of awareness coming from the New Zealand side of things. Maybe they can get some advertisement going. I didn't know about it either, so I think we're all in the same boat here. I also realised I haven't been giving shout-outs to the people who've been asking these questions, so thank you for everyone so far. We gave Renzi a shout-out for the hair comment. What we'll do now is, look, this kind of show, I don't want it to be all serious, so let's jump into a question here for both of you. This one comes from Nimble. Now, it's basically kill, fuck, marry. Who are you gonna choose from your teammates? Kill, sleep with, marry, go. Naked, you can go first.
Far out.
And no, I can't. For you watching, I can't believe I asked that, but it had to be asked, right?
I think Lincoln's a bit into it, so I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to sleep with Lincoln, maybe.
I'm loving this already.
It's a hard one. Shocks gets a bit angry, but Buzzin', I don't know. I've been in bed with Buzzin' a few times. We have to share the bed, so he's not very entertaining in bed. So I'm gonna have to kill him, and we might have to go LF1. I'm thinking about the team here, and I'm gonna have to marry Shocks, but I'm probably gonna have to get some warrant out for his abuse of me or something.
What is this question?
This question is next to Nimble.
You better watch what you're saying here. There's some loads against this, you say?
Naked answered it nice and fair. So, back over to you, Issei, now.
Yeah. Okay.
Kill, sleep with, marry. Let's do this in your family. Now, I'm not sure. Do we have to leave Luca out of
Oh,
this, or
dear, I don't know. I'm really.
I think
I'm really-
legally you have to kill him.
yeah,
Legally.
I'm really taken aback here. Nah, I mean, Luke's 13, man. Like, you can't do these kind of things, bro.
You're going to jail no matter what.
I'm going to jail no matter what. He's right. So yeah, I'd have to kill Luke. Unfortunately, man. Like, fuck me. Right. So what was the other two? Sorry, sleep and marry.
yeah, sleep with and marry.
Okay. Denz has a really big temper on him, so I'm not sure if I could deal with that if I was married to someone like that. If I was a
You
woman.
could spice things up though.
Yeah, no, you're right, man. You're right. But honestly, I think Hayden's a bit like more laid back, so I'd probably have to marry Hayden.
You'd make
And
a good sandwich.
and yeah, Denz, bro. Like, what are you gonna do, brah? So yeah,
Wife material.
there you go.
No. All right. Well, that's question. Look, we got that out of the way. I had to ask it. These guys want us to do it. Always good for a laugh. Let's get into another serious question now. Both of you guys can answer this. We'll start with Naked. Who is the global God Squad? This question came from Mega Eminence. You can choose 4 players from any region. Who's the God Squad?
Oh, any region, okay.
Can't go past Crimsix. Aches is captaining. Ooh, I can't even think of players right now. Scump. And I'm just gonna go with Teep. I'm just gonna say the EG team plus what's his name? Scump.
Stumpy,
If
yeah.
if Karma's gone, yeah.
In
So-
before it's actually happening.
Yeah, so I'd say that's it at the moment. Scump's
Yeah.
a bit on and off lately, I think, but he's really good when he wants to be.
Well, there you go. And Issei, what about you? Global God Squad.
Yeah, Naked's right. Like, Crimsix is straight up the freak, so Crimsix would have to be in there. I agree with Aches having to be in there as well. TP, not so much, even though like their chemistry like could be like extremely like the key to their success. But I'd probably say I'd put Formal in there, and I would put I'd put Attach in there as well.
Well, there you go. So here, that's your God Squads from both of our pros here. I think. What's our time looking like? Oh, we're casually 20 minutes over. We'll,
Here we
we'll
go.
wrap it up. We'll wrap it up with three more questions. We'll go 3 more. And guys, I'm still going to give you a chance to get your question. I'll choose the best 3 out of the ones we get. Actually, make it 4 because then it'll be the best 3 after you guys eventually get that. So we'll go for 4 more questions. Coming from our very own ACL Beware, what event did you personally, not as a team, did you personally perform best at? Issei?
I'd actually say, what are we talking about like a whole event or just a game, like a certain series?
Well, the
whole
question
event.
is worded as an event.
Okay.
So.
Whole event. I'd probably say the Sydney qualifiers for COD champs.
Sydney qualifiers. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'd say the same but the year before.
Well, there you go. So, qualifiers for both of these players. All right. So, 3 more questions. Let's have a look what we've got here. We've got a couple of funny ones, but I want to skip over them. We might save a funny one for last. All right. Coming from Asters to both. Do you believe OzCOD would be bigger or better on the world stage if in Advanced Warfare there were 6 pro teams at the same level instead of 3? So I'm going to word this my own way. Instead of these 2 or 3 top teams such as Kirsten and Plantronics Mindfreak, if we had 6 that were constantly battling it out, do you think that would affect OzCOD on the world stage, or would we still be stuck here but just battling it out between 6 teams?
I think it's a no-brainer, really. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Like that's why America is so dominant, is because they have all these Sikamanu teams. Like there's like 12 of them. They're all like tier 1, so they can constantly
And you could rotate players as soon as
exactly.
Issei probably wouldn't have this problem of looking for an 18+ skilled player if there was another 4 teams full of good players.
Yeah, exactly. So they're constantly versing each other. They're all tier 1, and like obviously it's going to affect the world stage for Australia, because think when there's a roster change in Australia, it's like someone's died. Like everyone's going off their heads, bro. But like in America, it's all business. So that's what it would be like in Australia. It would just be like there'd obviously be a lot more attention in Australia if there were a lot more teams like tier 1, like us and Mindfreak. So you know what I mean. So of course it would affect.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
that's the answer to that question. Let's. Any advice? We've already had that question. Okay, so here's a good question, and we've touched on this previously, and I know Naked's been very vocal about it in the past, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and we'll actually start with you, Naked. What do you think about people looking for teams and not sticking it out with teaming with people that may be below their standards? So essentially, that's about teams sticking together and maybe breaking up because they think they're not together. So we can talk about this all night. So let's try and let's less than 30 seconds, Naked. Tell us what your thoughts are on that.
I think everyone wants to see success in 20 seconds, and they don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
You don't get there straight away. You need to actually stick it out, and I think actually the worst thing for a team is placing well and then never placing that well again, because they get this inflated ego, and I've seen it so many times, people wanting T4, and they've never placed T4, and I could name about 30 players better than them in my opinion, but they think that they're T4, and the thing is, T4 is a placement, it's not a skill gap. You need to actually just work with the team, and you'll place T4 consistently. I don't see where people get this idea that they're a T4 player.
Yeah, no, Naked's right. Like, I was like this before I made my team T1 Dotters. Like, I wasn't a clan hopper. It was just like I'd have teams that would be like stints. So we'd place good in a competition, then we'd break up. So like CDG was like the first team I stayed in for like over 3 months, and then this is the first team I've ever been in over 6 months. So yeah, like I agree with Naked. I hate seeing teams break up over petty things like wanting 20-second success. But then again, like what you just said then, Albert, I know you're probably talking about like Team Storm, but like I think they were going to break up regardless. You know what I mean? Because COD champions.
I'm thinking lower teams that have never
okay.
like they came first. Fair enough.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
no,
a bit lower down the chain.
yeah.
Okay, here's a question from Hopi for both of you. This time we'll go to Naked first. For 18 plus players, who would make the best team for Advanced Warfare Champs minus current Mindfreak and Curse members?
Is he wanting us to like form his team for him or something? Or
I'll do the work for you. Hold on. Copyright. Depends if he means the best 4 players or the best 4 as a team. If I'm gonna go as a team, I'll just say it as a team because I'm not gonna put someone that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Hopi. Obviously, I definitely think Hopi. Maka. He's been a bit consistent lately, but I have played with him before, and I know he's got the skill to compete with people, and he's definitely got the dedication. I think Benno, if he came back and actually put his effort in again, he's a good player. He's represented Australia in Halo that many times, and he's got the natural skill. And I'm basically naming Avant here. 18 plus.
hard, eh? It's actually
That fourth one, I don't know. I'm pretty much naming Avant. I feel bad for not naming Kyle here. I feel really bad, but I don't see that working with Hopi at the moment. That's why I'm not naming Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really rate Hopi if he finds a team of people he enjoys playing with. Maybe even Kui if he starts putting in some effort again. Who knows? It's Avant, basically, I'm naming.
Awesome. And Issei?
Yeah, when you think about the players that are actually like free agents at the moment who are 18 plus, it really comes down to being Avant without Vilesider. So like it could be Hopi, Maka. I reckon actually Benno's a really good player, man. Like if he actually stuck it out for like until COD champs or something and actually like played a lot of COD, then I actually think he'd like be a freak. But yeah, I'd say Hopi, Maka, Benno, and I was going to say Vilesider, but what Naked said before, with Hopi recently leaving Avant, I don't think it's going to happen. But
Can I chime something in once you're done as well? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, bro. Yeah, Kui. Yeah, you could put Kui in there, but I don't know. I just think the team would be way too slow having Kui and Maka in the same team again. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one for that fourth.
I forgot to mention, obviously, Rampage and Fergs are possibles. I think Fergs is really good. We played with him at Champs last year, and I feel like this MV squad all year has been sort of on the fence and hasn't been trying to the best of his ability, but I really feel like he's a good player.
Awesome. I lied about the number of questions. We got a few awesome ones through towards the end. So again, we'll just try and keep our answers very short, guys, and we'll smash through them. There is a question. Now, I'm going to modify the question after I read it because it's going to be a very obvious answer. Now, to both Naked and Issei, do you think NA teams should come to Australia to open the competitive scene more? Now, that's a very, very obvious answer. Now, I think this person, it was Storm Go. They just obviously want your take on it. Now, I'm going to say it's very obvious that will help, so I'm going to word it differently. Naked Nisei, do you think that NA teams coming to Australia will influence your sponsors and maybe perhaps influence sponsors to pick up other teams in Australia?
No, you said Issei, sorry.
Oh,
My
no,
bad.
Yeah.
well, Issei, you go.
Yeah, I would dream of NA teams coming to Australia and competing. It would be amazing if MLG or any other big organisation like MLG held competitions in Australia which attracted international players from the NA for COD. But yeah, I actually think it would because first of all, it would give all the other Australians who haven't been overseas, apart from obviously the old Mind Freak and the current Mind Freak and my team, a chance to compete against like the NA players. So I think it would be a very good opportunity, and if it was consistent, then obviously players would improve. So yeah, I would think it would bring a lot more interest.
Okay, and Naked?
Yeah, pretty obviously it would bring more interest in. Would they do it? I really doubt it. Unless we had, I really feel like we'd need around a $50,000 prize pool before they'd even consider spending the money and the time and effort coming down here.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
really doubt that's going to happen at the moment. So I don't see it worth it really, even for them to come here. I'd honestly rather see $50,000 be put in sending Aussie teams over to there, and I feel like that would do better.
Okay, awesome. Well, there you go. Second last question. I promise now this is going to be second last question. To both of you, who is the best player in the ANZ region, and you cannot vote for yourself or a teammate? This question comes from Eminence once again. So we'll start with you, Naked.
Oh my god.
Dens. Dens has consistently played well at champs, and I felt he did play the best for his team at LA, and I know they didn't have a great event, but he did play really good. He consistently can drop bombs. I've played with him before and played against him on PS3 a lot of times. Actually, I don't know if you know this, I tried to pick him up back when we were the old Mind Freak team with Bluey and that,
Yeah.
but he didn't know if he was able to play and whatnot, because I actually looked at Dens before as a top player, and knowing when him and Damage were coming over here from PlayStation, I knew that they weren't some joke of players and that, and a lot of the good players do come from PlayStation. Lincoln came from PlayStation, Luke, Chileans obviously, and the half of his team basically from
100%.
PlayStation. So, and it's got nothing to do that they're from PlayStation. It's just that they're actually good players. It doesn't make a difference what console you come from.
Hard out.
There you go. And Issei?
So did you say who's not my
Yeah,
teammate?
not yourself or your team. So no one in your team. Who's the best player in ANZ?
Fighter. Yeah, bro. Fighter, bro. Like he's crazy to verse. Like his movement, I think he has the best movement you can have as a submachine gunner. Like he's extremely aggressive, but he's also smart at the same time. His actual movement when you're in a gunfight with him is really fucking hard to hit, man. Naked, bro. Oi, have you tried to like verse him in a free fall? Like it's actually really hard to hit him.
I've
Like,
versed him for a year and a half.
Yeah, his movement is really good. I don't know what he does, but yeah, 100% Lincoln. His movement's amazing. So
He's got the moves like Jagger.
Hey, come on, man! Don't steal my calls. No. All right. So that was the last question. Now I've got to give it to Bioacid, the man, the myth, the legend. In a match you weren't in, so I'll say it again. In a match you weren't in, what is your most memorable moment from an ACL event? Let's try and keep it to positive moments. So again, I'll say it again. In a match you weren't in, what is your most memorable moment from an ACL event? We'll go to you, Naked.
ACL Gold Coast 2012. Vox vs Spray. 6-5 win, was it? Yeah, 6-5 win in the S&D. And I think it was Renzi that pulled out a 1v2 clutch, and it wasn't like, it was a good clutch. It wasn't like,
it was on lockdown. It was on lockdown.
Yeah. Just the fact of being in the crowd there, and that was definitely the most hype for an ACL event I've seen in a grand final, besides the ones I obviously played against Boston's team, I feel like. But that was really good to watch. If you weren't talking about ACL, definitely would have been the COD Champs grand final last year when we watched that live. It was amazing, going to 6-5.
Okay, well, let's make it outside of any of or let's make it Australia at least. So any Australian event, ACL or otherwise. So I guess that answers your question, the COD Champs. What about you, Issei?
I'd have to say the loser bracket final against Avan in Brisbane. Like that itself, not taking away from Albert, but that itself felt like a grand final. There was so much support in the crowd. I think we were a bit. I think Avan had more supporters than us, but still, like the actual game was so crazy. I said when we won that, I'm never going to forget that game.
Don't forget that the question is your best memory in a match that you weren't in. So I
Weren't
guess
in.
Oh, weren't in.
weren't in.
Oh,
Yeah.
bro, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's
Oh,
cool. It's
man.
cool. So best
Okay.
memory from an event that you weren't
Sorry.
in. Well,
Okay.
not an event you weren't in,
Yeah,
but a
yeah, yeah.
memory of a match you weren't actually playing.
Oh, okay. Well, 100% when I saw Luke's team win in Sydney, I was really happy to see Luke win as a player himself, not his team, just him as a player that he won. I was really happy for him, and I sort of felt like in that win that obviously Dennis Damage and I have played with him so much, and like we've sort of trained him a little bit, I guess you could say, like he's our little prodigy. So I was like quite proud, like a father, seeing him win that. So yeah.
Well, there you go. And because it's in all over social media, we've got a last celebrity question. Since
Yeah.
Karma got dropped from EG, who do you think EG will pick up?
Dito.
Quick answer. I love it. Naked.
Someone from Envy. I feel like formal or nameless. I don't think that they'll get anyone from Optic.
There you go. All right, so that is going to wrap up our Q&A segment for these pros. We've already gone over time, but I've loved it. And as I'm wrapping up here, I think Naked's dropped. Naked, are you with us?
I'm still here. I'm just circling around.
It's Issei. Issei's gone.
Shit, sorry, man.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
but-
All
ooh.
good. Oh, well, there we go. I can continue with the wrap up. That was our Q&A segment done with both of our pros. As I said,
who'd you say, Albert?
oh, you didn't hear it.
Formal or nameless, I think, because I don't think they'll get someone from Optic.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I reckon Dito, yeah. Actually, I was thinking of formal as well, but yeah, Dito, yeah. Anyway.
Cool. All right, we're good. Now, all right, so as I was saying, that's the Q&A segment done. Ladies and gentlemen, we have run a little bit over time. However, there was just so much to cover. We had a lot of time to catch up on. We went through pretty much the whole history of competitive Call of Duty and Ghosts here in our region. And I'd like to say a very warm thank you to both of our pro players tonight. Naked, a big supporter of ACL. You've always been with us, and thank you very much for being on the show. Also, you, of course, Issei, captain of Curse. I really appreciate the time of
Thanks,
both of
mate.
you coming on and basically
For having
answering
me.
all these questions. No problem at all. So just as I'm wrapping this up, I'm going to hand it to both of you guys to do a quick shout out, whoever you'd like to. I'll actually go to Naked first.
Shout out to Docs, Plantronics for supporting us. Shout out to the team for being loyal. Shout out to ACL, obviously, for everything they do all the time that people don't really give them the credit for and stuff like
Yeah,
this.
definitely.
I like doing this stuff. I'm sure you say it's when you
No, it's-
talk about it, it's all right, but then when you're actually doing it, it's a lot more fun, especially the question time.
Yeah, no, it's
And welcome back, Josh. It's good to have you back.
No, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. Issei, and now it's over to you, man.
Yeah, an obvious one. Just shout out to ACL, especially for having me on the show, and also for all the lands they put on. And shout out to, obviously, Curse for giving us this opportunity at the start of the year. Blevdog approached me. I still remember the day he approached me, and I was gobsmacked. So, shout out to them, our new managers, all the people who support us, our fans, and I'm really excited to see some old players come back. So, shout out to Renzi and Hysteria, and also shout out to my sort of new squad. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that'll have it. And there we go. Once again, thank you very much to both Naked and Issei for joining me tonight. This has been In The Zone. We hope